Hi Nico, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you, Aaliyah?
I'm doing well. So, have you had any time to kind of reflect on our previous session?
Yeah, so I thought about it and I think that, there was potentially MD as something that I was interested in, but I'm leaning way more towards the clinical psychologist, and that's kind of what we decided on.
Hmm.
And I'm also really interested in counseling psychology. I think that I'm definitely not 100% sure about the difference between which one I want to go for yet, but those are the two that really interest me.
Right. Okay. So, today we can look at what your next steps might be in order to obtain this degree. And
Okay.
I'm going to share my screen now. You can see the screen.
Yes.
Okay. So the first website I want to look at is Career One Stop, and I think this website is really useful for a multitude of different things. You
Okay.
can look at it here and take some more assessments, learn about different career clusters, plan your career, look at salaries. You can
Hmm.
look at training options, different colleges and certifications, internships, even. Um, do a job search, which that's what we're going to look at today. And there's a handy little toolkit that has some different training, careers, wages, stuff like that. Um,
Okay. Wow. There's definitely a lot.
yeah, this is a useful little website here. So here we have clinical and counseling psychologists, and they have a description right at the top at what they do. If you want to take a second to read that.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely think this is what I want to do between just delivering psychological tests and helping people in distress. I'm definitely also interested in individual and group counseling, and really even group counseling too is something that I started to consider a lot more of because of my program. Um, so yeah, I think that if I could help anybody with like personal or social adjustment, that definitely is the route I want to go down.
Okay, awesome. And below, if you wanted to, narrow in your studies, they have some different titles here, which
Oh,
one of
okay.
them being a licensed professional counselor, which is what you're
Nice.
going for now. So
Yeah.
that's perfect. They have other options, applied behavior science specialist, child psychologist, all these different things that you can look at. And as far as the outlook, there are likely to be new job opportunities in the future, which is very important, having job security. And there's a 10% change in job openings. So how comfortable are you with that in terms of securing a job eventually?
I think that's great. I mean, I'm not like 100% sure. I know it might be like around 1 or 3% for the growth in jobs typically. So that sounds like a lot.
Yeah, I think it is a little higher than average. That's really good. There's 9,400 annual projected job openings every year. So that is very good. And looking over here at the typical wages, you see 10% of people earning 46,000, and then the top 10% earning 138,000, which you're kind of the people who are in the top are going to be the individuals that have that doctorate or professional degree. And
Okay.
then the lower end most likely is going to be that master's degree. So that's kind of how
Okay.
you can differentiate the different salaries. Does that seem like an attractive figure to you, that median salary of 79,000?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think that's good for me. I mean, I probably after spend all that time in school, I would definitely wouldn't want to make too much less than that. But like you said, being that it's probably more master's degree level people down there,
Mhm.
if I had uh, a doctorate, I think I'd definitely be comfortable around 79, whether it be a little bit less or a little bit more.
Okay, yeah, and this is going to also depend on the location that you choose to live and work as well. So we'll talk about that too.
Okay.
And education and experience needed to get started. Doctoral professional degree is what most people have in the
Okay.
career. And did you say that you are interested in getting the doctoral degree?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. PhD or PsyD, both of them. Yeah.
Okay, great. And even if you were to go straight through your program now and go straight to the PhD, a lot of people enter this field with no work experience. So whichever way you decide to do, whether you work a little bit and then get your PhD or PsyD, or if you go right into it, both are fine. And an internship or residency will give you a lot of that experience that you'll need for that too.
Okay.
And it has some other programs down here too that can prepare you. Applied behavior analysis, clinical child psychology, counseling psychology, all of those would be great options.
Okay, great.
And this is kind of giving you a look at the percent of people in the field that have a doctoral versus a master's degree. So it's kind of looking like 50-50,
Okay.
but it's definitely depending on what you want to do in particular and how much money that you want to make.
Okay.
So, but you do want to get the professional degree.
Absolutely.
Okay. And down here, it shows you a little bit more about activities you might do in a day, such as collecting information through observation, recording, research, counseling, diagnosing. How do these all sound to you?
Yeah, I definitely think that that's stuff that I'm interested in. And I think that, it's kind of nice to be able to change sometimes too. So like maybe at one point I'm doing more like diagnosis clinically, and maybe some other point in my career I'm doing more research, just
Mhm.
collecting information and doing those types of projects. So I think that there's also a little bit of variability in that, and that's kind of exciting. So those are all definitely things that I want to do.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And then knowledge, psychology. You do have a background in psychology, so that's great. You're doing counseling right now. Customer and personal service, which you do have a lot of people and talking skills. So all of these are going to be very beneficial to you in getting that degree eventually.
Yeah.
And we'll look at the skills. I remember it specifically saying social perceptiveness was one of your strengths. So that is good. Active listening, which is needed for counseling and psychology, speaking to others, critical thinking, and service orientation, which helping others is very important to you. So you'll be spending a lot
Absolutely.
of time doing that in this field. And as far as abilities, oral comprehension, expression, problem sensitivity, written comprehension, all of these things are going to be important when you are doing paperwork. So have you thought about in those terms, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, so I mean, I think I'm ready to do it. I think that my degree in counseling is going to get me more ready for that, doing like practicum and internship, seeing what it's really like to do that. So I feel ready. I mean, it's really not too hard for me to write a paper or something like that. It's usually
Mhm.
something that I enjoy doing to an extent, depending on the topic. So I think that I'll be okay doing this. I'll feel like I'm really learning about people and that there's like a meaning behind it.
Okay, good. So now let's look at one more website.
Okay.
This is the US Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Okay.
So this is going to be about clinical counseling and school psychologists on this page. So it has the mean hourly wage as $42.93 and the mean annual wage is 89,000. It kind of puts it in a little bit different terms. How do you feel about
Okay.
that number?
Yeah, I like that. I'm just like thinking back to jobs I had when I was younger, even now for that matter. And that's definitely a lot better. So I think
Hmm.
that that's something that would make me feel highly motivated.
Right. Okay. And it also gets into a little bit about the different industries you can work in. Have you thought about the setting you'd like to work in?
Yeah, so I mean, I think I definitely an agency or hospital probably, or maybe possible a physician, like for some kind of physician, which I mean, I'm kind of considering that an agency, but I'm also thinking that like, maybe if it's one, like with just one physician that only had like one or two employees, it might not feel so much like an agency. But yeah, I think that like an agency or a hospital.
Okay, so you can see here we have the offices of physicians and then psychiatric and substance abuse hospitals.
Yeah,
There's that mean wage. So it's that's nice that you have kind of an idea of where you'd like to work at.
absolutely.
And down here, you can look at the employment in state by state. And since you were interested in possibly staying in PA, it's kind of nice you can see here that it being in the dark green area, that there is going to be a lot of employment here.
Absolutely.
So, but if you ever, think about relocating, this might be a good page to come and revisit.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's a very clear graphic right there. I would use that if I was going to go somewhere else with, which is not off the table, but just most likely PA, like you said.
Yeah. So this one looks at employment by state, and you can look at these other ones too if you're interested. But this one I think is interesting to look at too. It's the annual mean wage, which it's funny because Pennsylvania being so highly populated has kind of a lower mean wage. You can see in this lighter blue area, 70,
Okay.
75 to 81, which you do have to think about the cost of living as well when determining that. So those are
Yeah.
all factors to keep in mind.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen now.
Okay.
All right, so we talked a little bit about the description of what clinical and counseling psychologists do, the industries and which they work in, and the different wages that they can make depending on location and experience level. So was there anything you kind of took from this experience?
Yeah, I think that this job is definitely what I want to do. I think that it makes enough money and it looks like there's a lot of opportunity coming up and in PA specifically. So I kind of feel like this is somewhat of a pretty rational decision and I just got to keep going forward with my education and see probably like what school is best from here.
Okay, yeah. So it sounds like you're very sure of yourself and are ready to make the next steps in terms of what school you'd want to pursue for that.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
do you have any other questions?
No, I don't think so. Thank you. I learned a lot about myself doing this.
All right, I'm glad. If you ever want to get back in touch and just talk about careers in more description, we can do that.
Yeah, thank you so much for offering.
All right, have a good one. Thank you.
Okay, you too.
Bye.
Bye.